Hello, 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 and welcome to the second episode of PitchZone, a place where a founder, a startup can come in and deliver a 3-minute pitch that gets evaluated and reviewed by 4 different coaches. In case we haven't met yet, my name is Claudio. I'm the host of this show. I'm a presentation coach that focuses mostly in the startup community. And today we have a very, very special presenter, a special guest. Let me bring him in right now. We have Håvard Lillebo from Norway. Håvard, it's so great to have you here on PitchZone.
Oh, thank you, Claudio. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, me too, me too. I've been excited all day long. As a matter of fact, I had the Pointer Sisters bouncing in my head with the song. I'm so excited, I can't hide it, right? So, Howard, you are an extremely seasoned presenter. You are a founder with 5 different companies. You had 2 very, very successful exits. Yet you're still in the mode of improving your pitch. So my kind of guy, Howard, what has been your most challenging moment so far when you were pitching to others?
I think sort of the pitch setting is a kind of a special setting where you have to communicate clearly in sort of a very condensed and sort of still authentic way. Versus when you meet with people, you have this conversational tone and it flows much easier, and you kind of have to master both in order to work with investors. So I think this is super good practice for me, get feedback and always improving.
Indeed, indeed. So no matter how good you are, there's always something we can do to level up our game even more. So Howard, you are from Norway. I'm hailing from Thailand, and I'm curious, all the viewers on LinkedIn and on YouTube, we are streaming it to both platforms. Say hi in the comment quickly and let me know where you are located in the world, because we want to reach every single corner with this little show called PitchZone. So, Howard, you will have 4 top coaches helping you out. Do you want to meet them?
Absolutely.
All right, so let's bring in the first one, Nathan Gold. Nathan Gold is a friend of mine. We go back a few years together, and I consider Nathan the absolute top pitch coach in the world. Nathan, it's such a great pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Welcome to PitchZone back again.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. After 15 years of coaching people, situations like you're presenting to the world today is exactly what I live for.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Nathan. I'm going to put you right in the corner for the moment, the place we didn't want to be in school, but here it's actually the seat of honor. Michael Marchak is joining us from Chicago. Michael is a C-level executive and also an angel investor. Michael, welcome to PitchZone.
Thank you for having me. I am so looking forward to hearing Howard's next pitch. He does such a great job, and I really want to see how he's been working on his new roles now.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so I'm going to put you in the coach's corner as well. And here is Rick Pollack. Rick is joining us from Boston, Massachusetts, an experienced presentation coach. Rick, this is the first time for you in the new format that we have here. Welcome to PitchZone. Please introduce yourself very briefly.
Hi, I'm Rick Pollack. I'm the presentation medic, and my specialty is helping technical presenters capture and keep the attention of non-technical audiences. And I'm interested to see Håvard pitch. I saw him pitch before, and I know we've talked before on LinkedIn, Håvard, and we both agree that really the presenter really needs to get the audience to care about their big idea. Probably the most important thing of all. And looking forward to your pitch and seeing how you're doing that.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, all right. So, Rick, you are also lined up with the coaches right now. And I encourage everybody that is watching this right now to leave your own comments because we only see so much. And you may see some things that are really, really valuable to Håvard as well. And if you're on LinkedIn, I can pull in your comments like this. We have already a couple of comments. Unfortunately, I also got a private message on LinkedIn that it says the session has ended. So it is possible that on LinkedIn, we are actually not live right now. And that would be not so good, of course. Maybe Massimo, I know you are watching. Maybe you can make a comment in the LinkedIn comment section and direct people to the YouTube link. That would be absolutely fantastic. Because I know, Håvard, you are extremely well connected on LinkedIn. As a matter of fact, in my mind, when I think of LinkedIn, I think of Håvard. And when I think of you, I think of LinkedIn. So I know you brought quite a fan group here, and they're probably all on LinkedIn right now wondering, what's going on and where is Håvard? So let's not make that a delay. Let's not let that stop us, but immediately dive into the pitch. Håvard, you know the routine. It's a 3-minute pitch. What is your intended audience? Just that we can really fine-tune our feedback to that scenario.
The audience is investors who can participate in the next round, and this is kind of the first intro meeting, or to catch their attention.
First intro meeting to catch the attention of investors. Coaches, you're ready?
All set.
Are you ready?
Yep.
The floor is yours. As soon as you begin talking, I will display a little clock above you so that you can keep track of the time. Håvard, the virtual floor is yours.
Good. Hi, I am Håvard Lillebo, a serial entrepreneur and founder of Wopots. If you run a fish farm, you have an algae problem. You know, the green slimy stuff that grows on everything in the water. Your current solution creates copper and CO2 pollution and is expensive. And on top of that, you risk losing fish because you don't have control of your nets. Escaping fish, not good. Not good. The world beneath the ocean surface is harsh. So we have a solution. Completely autonomous robots. No human interaction, 365 days a year, remotely located, cleaning and inspecting your nets every single day. That is what we do, creating large value using smart robots, artificial intelligence, machine vision. Okay, I think this is really cool tech. I love this. And the beauty is that this is also a really good business. Our two-sided robot with one inner and one outer side is held together with magnetic belts in the net. This solves 3 problems. 1, we use no energy to stay in the net. 2, we have efficient wireless underwater communication. And 3, we brush the net from both sides. That means we have no thrusters and no tether. Customers are lining up. We have 620 robots in pre-orders. That is equal to 15% of all the fish pens in Norway. 19.2 million euros in recurring revenues. And we aren't starting at ground zero. We have raised 3 million euros from investors who already see the vision. Now, this is where we like to go. we are raising 3 million euros to strengthen our team, industrialize the robots, and deliver to our 640 pre-orders. This is the future for fish farming. This is SwapBots. Come join us. And one more thing. If you haven't seen the robot video, you have something amazing in front of you. Welcome to our world.
So Howard, I have to ask you a couple things. You had a discussion about your pre-orders, and you mentioned there were 620. And you said you had said 640. Which one is it?
640.
Okay. Okay.
Did I say 620? I did actually.
Yeah.
You're right. It's 640. A very good point, Michael.
Right. So the pre-orders that you have right now, you mentioned there's 90.2 million in recurring revenues. Is that an annual projection? Or is that what was that number come from?
Yeah, that's based on the current business model where you have a rental fee of 2,500 euros per robot per month. So if you add that up on 640, you get 19.2 million euros in projected revenue. So of course you have to convert these pre-orders to actual orders and deliver, and that's the next phase of the game.
Agreed. So how large is the market for fish farmers that would be purchasing this? You mentioned you've got this is the 640 that is 15% of the market in Norway. How large is that market?
That market is about 60% of the total global market. So the Norwegian market is by far the leading one. And also the international players are to a large extent dominated by Norwegian headquartered businesses. So Norway is the leading area for salmon farming. Now there are other salmon farms also, other type of fish farms also, so that this can be extended to. But just to sort of be very precise on the global market, just in salmon, it's about 250 million euros in annual recurring revenue for us. The Norwegian business is about 10 billion euros in revenues, sort of per year. So it's quite a large business actually.
So what is this replacing that is in use currently, and what is the cost differential between those two solutions?
Yeah, so very good question. And they're using high pressure underwater cleaners today, whereas there is a dedicated boat, dedicated crew, and they lift and up these robots in the nets, and they clean it like every maybe 14 days. And then they go to the next pen and to the third and the fourth. And then they have this as a service, which is quite manual. And the whole idea here is to convert that to using robots, one robot per fish pen, and have a continuous cleaning so you don't get algae at all in the net.
So 2 questions regarding that. What does it cost them for the current solution when you look at the cost differential? And second is, why do they care if they do this all the time continuously, or is 2 weeks enough?
No, very, very core questions actually. And the reason why you don't want algae to grow is that it blocks oxygen from coming into the fish net, and the fish need oxygen to grow. And you also want to exchange sort of wastewater, used water, after sort of the water has been used. So you want fresh water into the pen and sort of dirty water exiting as quickly as possible. It's a process. And the more the algae grows on the net, the more you blocks both of these sort of input and output from the net. So that's why it's very key to keep them clean. And if you let something grow underwater for 14 days, or even especially during summer months, it actually accumulates a lot of algae down there, which blocks this and can also harbor pathogens and several sort of other negative benefits. The cost of doing this today is it's about sort of 30 to 50,000 euros per year, or if you take that down, we can offer a significant operational savings and all the other effects in addition by replacing the current inefficient ways of doing this.
So your solution is 2,500 euros a month. So you're doing about 30,000 euros a year versus their current 50,000 a year. So you're saving them roughly 20,000 euro a year on the service.
Yeah, depending on how efficient they are. Some are more efficient, some are smaller, but sort of 30 to 50,000 euros in total cost is a fair estimate.
Okay. And then from a business perspective, then who owns the devices? Because you mentioned there's a lease, there's a rental. Who owns the devices themselves?
So we own the devices. We rent them out. It's a monthly risk subscription for 2,500 euros. And then we are responsible for, of course, then the service and keeping the robots operational and making sure that you basically deliver clean nets as a service.
Okay. And what are your costs to support that robot then on a monthly basis? What's your margin level for this?
Well, that's part of the beauty. It's actually very low cost. Like you have to make the robots robust, of course. They need to the product lifetime need to be sort of 5 years, which is the target. And then you only have to exchange brushes and charge the batteries in principle. There's a few sort of maintenance things, but the margin on this is great.
Okay. And how long have these been in production? I'm just curious.
How long they have been in production? That's what we are developing. So we are testing now, and it's been a step-by-step process up to a stage where we can deliver to the 4 pilot customers we have. And we're starting testing with the first pilot customer next year. So we're actually pretty excited about that. Then rolling out later in the year and sort of getting more volumes, and that's the plan.
So, Håvard, I really appreciate your answers that you just gave Michael, because he's asking you the kinds of questions that an investor would ask you, and that's exactly one of the reasons we love having him here with us. Your answers seem kind of right to the point, short enough for us to get what you're doing and why you're doing it. So good work in the Q&A part of it as well. I'd like to take a moment now and talk about the presentation a little bit, if it's okay. I feel
Absolutely.
like your opening could be stronger here. It felt, I might have missed a couple of words, to be honest, because I was getting ready to take notes. So if I could hear that again later after the recording, I'll come back to you with an email and let you know whether or not it can work as it is. But I feel like just listening to the way you just answered the questions to Michael, you clean nets as a service. Who does that? There's another way you could grab our attention in the beginning. I feel like your opening could be more attention grabbing. So I'd love to see you amplify that opening a bit. I mean, you could even say we build autonomous, this is a little bit literal, we build autonomous underwater robots that eat algae 24/7, 300 or 24/7, 365. Look, you're even smiling, and it's your technology. All right, so a couple of things I want to see you work on. When you first start talking, your hands are really not helping. They're just kind of there, and I feel like they can come out of the picture and just bring them in when you want to emphasize a point or something. It just feels like the gesture is not needed until you need it. That's just my own personal opinion. You're also using the wrong pronoun when you're pitching to investors. You're saying you. You. They're not the you. So be careful of using the right pronouns during that presentation, because they'll get confused, and could even be cognitive dissonance in their brains about, why are you talking about me doing nets when I don't do nets, that kind of stuff. And it's a very common thing. I see this all the time. People are starting to talk about their product, and they assume the audience is one of their customers or users. So I'd be very careful about that. And
Nathan, just a question on that one, because I think I said if you run a fish farm, you have an algae problem. So I was trying to kind of make this relevant for the audience that, well, if
Good.
you were sort of in the fish farm, so I was wondering where the confusion kind of started.
It wasn't confusing. It just didn't hit me hard enough. In other words, if you're a fish farmer, you have an algae problem. Okay, great. Yeah, maybe I don't, but that's assuming you do. They do. I would say you potentially probably have an algae problem. We have a way to solve that, or something just to bring me a little bit more into it from a curiosity standpoint.
Okay.
Oops. Sorry for that, Nathan.
Okay.
I would like to add here as well that, Howard, you are changing the world with Wattbots. And I think you can hit the emotions of your viewers and listeners way, way more by really, really agitating the problem on one side, and then do this little dance between this is and this is what could be, this tension kind of thing, to go from the frustration that we all know with the state of the world today to the relief that you are bringing with this solution to a very specific marketplace. Now, there are also a couple of comments that came in here while Michael and Nathan were talking. Stuart commented, and he would like to know more about how this is better than what exists currently. And I think you gave most of the answers in your conversation with Michael. But if you just want to, maybe in a one sentence, one phrase, what makes this better?
Yeah, it's better because you keep algae completely off the nets, and by doing that, you improve the fish health, you improve the sort of the process of growing the fish, and you can take out pollutants, CO2 and copper, from sort of that's how it is today.
Okay.
So actually very big wins for the fish farmers.
Yeah.
That's part of why we're getting so good traction on the pre-orders. They like they believe what we
Absolutely.
what we do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Then there is another comment here from Massimo. He only heard the second half. However, he was a little bit confused with the many numbers. He got lost. So maybe an infographic would be helpful. Not really a question, more a comment of perhaps this topic would warrant some visual aid, something that can really bring up the imagery. And it doesn't have to be slides, it can be Lego pieces that you're stacking up or anything else, in some props that you can be using, anything that makes this more palatable. And here another quick comment from Stuart. Wattbots is a cool name, but not the easiest to pronounce in English. And Stuart would know he is an Englishman, so I'd make sure to pronounce it very carefully. But, that's, again, just another comment here. So let's move on. Rick, what kind of observations have you made that you want to share with Howard?
Okay, Håvard, I think you mentioned some of the things in your conversation with Michael that should have been in the presentation, in the pitch. And I think what jumped out to me is that, and we mentioned before about the reason to care. You gave the fish farmers a reason to care, but did you give the investors a reason to care? It goes back to Nathan's comment about the right pronouns. And I think more of, you started at the beginning talking about, if you run a fish farm and you explained the problem, but then when you got into the solution, the thing about the algae and the copper, you didn't tie back to that. You mentioned the robots were doing that, but you specifically said algae, you especially said copper, and then I was listening for it again that you got rid of the algae and copper, and I think you could have made that a lot stronger. You went right into the robots and the AI. So I think you can make that stronger. But more of that, and what you mentioned to Michael is that for the investor, you are offering the service. It's going to be better for the environment. It's going to get rid of the algae, but you're renting it out for so much money, and it doesn't cost you that much. So that's the reason that they'd want to invest in Wattbots. I think you went right in around 45 seconds. You went into the solution. I think you could have done that even sooner. You made it clear. You solved the 3 problems. Around 2 minutes into the pitch, you went into your experience and why you, and I think that's good for the investor. But then at around 2:25, as you started to get into the call to action, and you're saying, invest in us and watch the video. And I think you could have been more specific on the call to action on that. And instead of just saying, invest in us, you could have said, we've raised so much before we have these pre-orders. We're asking for 10 million, or we're asking for something specific on that. Just watch the video. I mean, that you could have a stronger call to action on that of actually asking that. But I really like that. I like the product, and I think if you get more into why this is going to be something that the investors will make money on and more of your business model, but still get into very quickly, here's the problem, the algae, and they have to do this with the copper, and we're going to do this as a service with AI and robots that will keep the nets clean and get rid of the algae. And we're going to make a lot of money doing it. So that I think if, the next version of the pitch, I think if you work those in, it's good. It's really good now, but it's going to be a lot better if you work that in.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I had mentioned, and the reason I asked so many questions was because some of the discussions you had within your pitch didn't answer any of them. They were really going back towards the customer base of fish farmers. And since I am not a fish farmer and I really don't care about fish specifically other when I eat them, I want to know from how my dollars could be working when I put them into play. So they ask you the questions about that. You didn't really answer some of the angles about why these fish farmers would choose to change their service, other than perhaps it's less expensive for them. But the competing on price is a dangerous thing, because those folks who are washing the nets currently will likely compete with you. They're not just going to leave. They're not just going to decide to go when in fact they may have an opportunity to say, well, we can continue washing your nets for some other price. So understanding what those margins are and how the competitive pressures may come into play and how you're addressing those competitive pressures would be really good for an investor to understand. The other thing is, you mentioned about watching the video. Just simply understanding what you're planning on doing with the things, talking about this is what we do, this is what we do. A 10-second video, 20-second video, even in the middle of your pitch, would have been extremely helpful to say, this is what we do, and this is what we're replacing. That gives those pictures are worth 1,000 words, and then you won't have to explain the why behind it. And you go right into your business value of why we need the money. I need the money because we're doing additional development. We have these pre-orders. We can't fulfill the pre-orders because without the money, I can't develop the robots. I'm making the assumptions on that right now. I have no idea what you're using the money for. So that going into the details, especially when you're doing a second ask, I'm going to ask the question, what happened to the first round? How fast did you burn through that kind of stuff? Why do you need a second round so quickly? Those are all things that we really need to understand as an investor before we put in the money for the second round.
Yep. No, good points, Michael.
Do you have an animation, Håvard, or any sort of
course, and
visuals?
And I was actually
Okay.
thinking about what you said, Michael, about sort of running the video, sort of, and talking in the background. Now I was a little sort of scared that it would be jumpy, and when you run it on this live show, but it's a beautiful piece of for explaining and connecting with what we do. So the video is a key part of the but those were just my thoughts. But and Yeah, I agree that it would actually been better to show the video during the pitch.
Yeah, I would have done
Even
that
sort of in
if you had.
silent mode.
Yeah, with you doing the voiceover, like Michael said, would be ideal. And then we get a chance to see it in action, even if it's an animation. And and that would be the main change I would love to see here. If you're not going to use any slides, I appreciate that for a 3-minute kind of pitch. If you don't want to use the slides, although some of the other coaches have recommended you put up a couple for the video, I think from seeing the kinds of videos that you turn out, that would be very compelling.
Yeah.
There is another comment here that Stuart left on the in the comments here. An endorsement from a fish farmer about how well it works would be huge, and I, of course, agree. Customer testimonials are always a very, very powerful way, no question. All right. So there are no new comments in YouTube right now. So Nathan, Michael, Rick, do you have any last minute feedback? We still have a good 5-10 minutes on the clock. So
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll grab one more spot here. Håvard, I wanted you to know that the way you handled the mistake that Michael pointed out to you was very genuine, honest, and authentic. When you make a mistake like that and somebody points it out to you, it just makes you human. And I loved how you responded to it. Yeah, I get it. You had the right attitude. You didn't get nervous. You didn't get upset. You didn't get defensive in any way like I have seen other people. So for all of you watching, I'd say that was a really great lesson in the fact that when you make a mistake in a formal presentation like this, let it happen. It's okay. If you say 10 million instead of 100 million, and somebody asked during Q&A, did you really mean 10 million? Did I say 10 million? Because, we get in these almost out-of-body experiences when we're in these kind of situations with an audience, especially when it's high stakes. And as you can see, Håvard's laughing his butt off right now because he's been there. He's done it. He's made mistakes before. And I think that's what makes you one of the most honest, authentic, and genuine human beings I've ever worked with is, all right, I made a mistake. Move on. It's okay. Well done.
Very good. Yeah, it's easy to forget.
Yeah, no such thing as perfection here. And actually, a perfect pitch is maybe a little bit off-putting to some audiences. Like, wow, that was too perfect. I'm not sure I believe everything I heard.
Yeah. No, good one.
Michael, Rick, what do you have to say to this gentleman?
So I like. I mean, we again, these are all we're narrowing down into some very small points, and I want to make sure you understand. I like the way you present. I really do, and I like your authenticity. One of the things that I would like to see though is when you talk about the why me part of it. I would also like to have some credentials behind the other part of it, the development of these robots in the back end. We have expert robot builders or developers or AI experts who are doing these things, and maybe if you have credentials behind them to connect those together, that would be excellent. The other thing would be we talked about endorsements before for fish farmers. If there are endorsements from some other one, from an environmentalist, from something else to connect these things together, those things are additional validations that show that it's not just you with an okay idea, this sounds interesting, whatever, but it's third-party validations behind the idea that are really giving you some more strength to go on that. So those are things I would look at. Quite honestly, from an investor too, you talk the margin piece is going to be important. Maybe you don't want to say the margins here, but the margin piece is important when you do actual investor pitches because they're going to want to know what those look like. So you're going to need to know those numbers to be able to tell them to that. I know right now you're still in development and whatnot, and you have some projections behind it, but they're going to want to know, hey, how many times are you going to pull this thing out of the water and have it fixed? How long those batteries are actually going to work? What are the other issues we have with operating these things underwater for a long period of time? Because underwater in salt water is a very harsh climate. So how are you managing to take care of those things from a maintenance perspective? Because there will be costs associated with it. So again, going back to those margin piece,
absolutely.
make sure you have those numbers and you know them, or at least know a really good projection of what you expect them to be based on something you've done.
Yeah, and however, let me add one compliment to you also. You talked about robots and AI more in passing, and I think a lot of founders would get too much into the weeds on that. And I think you just mentioned it, that you do that, and that's fine, because now I know how much you love robots, but for fish farmers or investors, as long as they know you're using robots and AI, that's all you need to do. And I think that was good. It shows some restraint. I think a lot of technical presenters really have to hold themselves back to stop, and make sure they are not talking about the technology to people who don't really care about the technology. They care about the results, not how you're doing it. And I think you did that well. And just and Nathan mentioned this as well, just your screen presence, you come across, even though, you know what you're talking about technically, but you come across as someone that people want to invest in. So I think it's just more of, you come across and to say what Nathan says, you made a mistake, you're human. You're not a perfect, you're not a robot. Even though you love robots, you do not come across as a robot. You
I wish I
across
said
as
that,
a
Rick.
human being. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, wonderful job, Hovind. And I think hopefully the comments that the coaches are making today is going to help you and help the other founders out there, of just coming across as human, staying away from all the the speeds and feeds and all the features and benefits. It's just what it does and how it's going to be better than the status quo. And I think you did a great job.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
One question, if I may.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
You made this point before the pitch to sort of make it relatable, Rick, and this is of course this is always a challenge when you try to create pitches, how to make it relatable. And my thinking was that if I could sort of explain this from a fish farmer's point of view, that could sort of make it easy to understand. I have a few other variants where I kind of went more on sort of algae and sort of the slimy stuff, and so sort of make it sort of relatable in that sense. But any sort of tips on this, sort of how to make it more relatable, so that you kind of this is what it is? Or I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, and I mean, you started out with the problem right away about the algae and the problem, and if you're a fish farmer. So, the word imagine always is a great way to start. Imagine you're a fish farmer and you've got to clean your nets every 2 weeks or every that. So I think that makes it relatable, and that they're paying for that service. So again, since you're talking to the investors, just, really paint that picture. And I know, storytelling instead of, telling a story, but the important part of the story is they have to see themselves in the story. The fish farmer sees himself or herself making it easier to clean, and the investor sees himself, herself as, oh, I invest in this and the margins are great on this, and the fish farmers are going to love it and they're going to buy it. So if they see themselves in that story, then that's the key to making them want to invest.
I'll add a piece to that if it's okay, Claudio. We still have time? Yeah? Okay. So, Håvard, one thing I would like to add to that is to make it more relatable. Sometimes the easiest way to do that, if the audience is all over the place, you have a big general audience, is to find a good simile or an analogy in life where 24/7, 365 cleaning is needed to be done without humans involved. And perhaps that could get everybody relating to the fact that, oh yeah, when algae shows up in a pool and it's got to be cleaned. I'm just using that as an example. That's what we do, but underwater, autonomously, for fishing nets. And then everybody goes, oh, I can relate to cleaning that stuff. And now I understand what he's doing under the water.
Yeah, it's kind of like those iRobots, the things that that vacuum your house autonomously. Yeah. So maybe that's an underwater Roomba, or that might be a good. And Nathan, Nathan, when we talk about metaphors and metaphorically speaking, the book that Nathan's recommended before, that might be a good way, because people will see it right away. Oh yeah, it's like the the Roomba, but it's underwater and it cleans the nets automatically.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent.
Like
so you are keeping the very best for last here, Nathan, but this was pure gold, of course, coming from you. No question about it. So I think we could continue this conversation for another hour. Sadly, we are getting to the end of our session here today, PitchZone episode number 2. Not the same technical issues as last week, but a new set of issues. So I apologize to everybody that tried to watch this on LinkedIn. If you watch it now on replay, my apologies, not our fault. Somehow LinkedIn just dropped the connection and the video isn't even there anymore. But, you know, these are the things that happen. And I do want to point out that we are producing this from a very, very small little space here. And I love the technology today because 5 years ago, this wouldn't even have been possible to do, to have so many people coming in and doing all of this from just one simple desk. I want to thank you, Håvard, for coming in. I hope you got a good list of feedback that you can work with and make this really, really good pitch even better.
Thank you, Claudio, and everyone, because this is what I think is very valuable when you pitch, to get external feedback and sort of get an honest review of how did you experience the pitch, what were you missing. Because then I can calibrate my pitching to resonate better with people. So thank you a lot. I'm always learning. This was great.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love it to hear that feedback about our feedback. So really, really happy about that. Now, while we were talking, our presenter for next week actually dropped into the green room briefly, and let's bring him in on the screen because Jordan Orlik, he is the CEO and founder of Let's Chat. Jordan, thank you so much. It's really, really great for you to quickly stop by here, say hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to pitch to everyone next week. Great job today as well, by the way. That's fantastic.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. We can't wait. And I see I need to correct your green screen here a little bit there. Now you're popping out a little bit better.
Hey.
So, Jordan, let's chat. Without giving the store away, what are you going to present next week? Can you give us a very, very brief teaser so that people will want to watch that session for sure? And by the way, I've known Jordan now for a couple of months, and I have to say I'm always floored with the energy that Jordan brings to the screen. It's absolutely amazing, and always a smile on his face. So, Jordan, what's next week's pitch going to be about?
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. Well, next week's pitch will be very exciting. We'll have some slides, maybe a video even, and it's going to be some exciting technology that deals with language translation, as that's what we do here at Let's Chat, and hopefully it'll blow your mind. And with that, I'm just going to leave it there, leave it open-ended, and it's some stuff that I can guarantee you've never seen before.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is what I love about my job, right? I always get these glimpses into the future. And when I saw your technology, Jordan, my mind was blown. And that's not the easiest thing to do. But when I saw that, and it's actually in action on my website and on Nathan's website, or one of your products, and it's just mind-bogglingly good. So we all look forward to that pitch next week. And with that, we have reached the end of PitchZone episode number 2. I wish you all a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.